own desperate figure tears through the dark, unforgiving wilderness, hunted like prey under the pale moonlight. The sound of snapping branches and ragged breathing echoes through the night as his escape comes to a sudden, violent halt. Trapped and broken, Prince Cheon collapses into the dirt, his legs refusing to move. He realizes with cold horror that his frantic flight was nothing more than a game to his pursuers. Shadows bleed from the trees as masked assassins corner the helpless royal. They mock his desperate hour-long sprint, treating his life-or-death struggle as mere amusement to pass the time. The killers remind him that his abdication and lack of martial talent mean nothing. In the brutal game of succession, merely carrying the royal bloodline is a death sentence. Insulted and backed into a corner, a spark of furious defiance ignites within the prince. He refuses to take their offered painless death, vowing instead to fight until his absolute last breath. With a feral roar, the untrained prince lunges forward in a suicidal counterattack. The assassins close in, expecting an effortless slaughter. Against all odds, a chaotic desperation strike connects, catching one of the assassins completely off guard. A spray of crimson stains the dark as a masked killer drops to the earth. The remaining hunters gasp in disbelief, realizing the boy's clumsy flailing was a calculated ruse to lower their guard. Fury replaces their amusement as they realize one of their own has fallen to a mere child. Retribution is swift and merciless. A cold blade pierces straight through the prince's midsection. He collapses in agony, gasping for air as his vision begins to blur. The lead assassin twists the blade with sadistic pleasure, promising an excruciatingly slow demise. As the prince's consciousness fades, a sudden, blinding flash of white light rips through the forest. The assassins shield their eyes in absolute shock as the brilliant anomaly shatters the darkness. Panic stirs in the woods as the wind violently whips around them. Out of nowhere, a mysterious figure materializes from the blinding radiance, standing defiantly behind the executioners. The stranger stands clad in bizarre, otherworldly garments crackling with vibrant blue electricity. The assassins can only stare in mute bewilderment at this impossible intruder. Before the killers can even react, the mysterious savior moves at blinding, imperceptible speed. He vanishes into thin air like water, leaving only the sound of displaced wind. A series of thunderous impacts echo through the clearing as the assassins are systematically dismantled in a matter of seconds. They never even see the strikes coming. The final assassin falls, leaving only the dying Prince Cheon bleeding out on the cold ground. His fading vision captures the stranger standing over him, wearing a calm, enigmatic smile. Kneeling beside his dying descendant, the futuristic traveler prepares an advanced metallic syringe. With no time left to explain, he realizes he must improvise to save the boy's life. The stranger plunges the needle directly into the prince's neck, initiating a high-tech transfusion. He whispers a final wish for his ancestor to succeed before his own body dissolves back into light. As the stranger vanishes into the ether, a cold, mechanical consciousness boots up within the dying prince's mind. A chilling digital system voice echoes inside Prince Cheon's head, announcing the activation of Sky Corporation's 7th generation Nano Machine. The legendary history of the Jianghu unfolds, a world long defined by a fragile balance between the forces of justice and the forces of evil. But from the shadows emerges the demonic cult, a ruthless faction seeking absolute strength above all else. This is the tragic tale of Cheon, an illegitimate prince born with a target on his back and a rightful claim to a heavily contested throne. Deep within a quiet room, the broken prince suddenly jolts awake, clutching his chest in sheer disbelief. Memory tells him his stomach was brutally run through with a blade, yet he draws breath, completely unharmed. Confused and trembling, he notices a horrific stench radiating from his own skin, which is covered in a sticky, black residue. Before he can make sense of the mystery, a calm, disembodied voice breaks through the silence, addressing him directly. Panic flares within the isolated prince as he scans the empty room, realizing the source of the speech is locked inside his own mind. The entity rejects the idea of magic or telepathy, introducing itself instead as the Sky Corporation's 7th generation Nano Machine. Stunned by words he cannot comprehend, the boy wonders if he is communicating with the fabled evil god worshipped by his cult. Outside his chambers, footsteps approach as a loyal guard guides a renowned physician toward the scene of the slaughter. They speak in hushed, urgent tones about the recent string of assassination attempts and the impossible miracle that occurred in the forest. The protector recounts the horrific carnage he witnessed, a clearing littered with the mutilated corpses of the elite killers, yet the prince was found sleeping soundly without a single scratch. As the men marvel at this inexplicable salvation, the entity within the room continues to recalibrate its language parameters to match the current historical era. The machine clearly states that it is not a deity, but a highly sophisticated technological construct designed to support the master's brain. Ready to transmit its basic operational data, the voice requests authorization, triggering a sudden, agonizing overload of foreign knowledge. The prince gasps and chokes, vomiting onto the wooden floorboards as his central nervous system violently adapts to the digital intrusion. As the dizziness subsides, the machine explains that the physical rejection is a natural one-time side effect of the neural link. Trembling, the young royal realizes that millions of invisible microscopic tools are now actively flowing through his veins. When he demands to know if they can leave his body, the system coldly informs him that it is programmed to remain permanently until the day he dies. Bitter and hardened by the realization that his own half-brothers are desperate to see him dead, the powerless boy accepts his strange new reality. Hearing a sudden knock at the door, he frantically commands the artificial intelligence to remain quiet so he won't be branded a madman. The nano machine immediately complies, slipping into a stealthy, silent monitoring mode as the door swings open. The guard and the physician rush inside, only to stop dead in their tracks, overwhelmed by the putrid odor filling the air. Believing something terrible has befallen the royal heir, the doctor quickly takes the prince's wrist to read his vital pulse. A profound shock registers on the old healer's face as he analyzes the results of the checkup. Far from being damaged, the young prince's body has undergone an impossible metamorphosis. Every trace of impurity has been forcibly purged from his system, completely unlocking his dormant energy pathways. For the first time in his desperate life, the once talentless prince looks down at the black stains on his skin, realizing he finally possesses the perfect physical vessel to master the ultimate arts of combat. The demonic cult is a battlefield of bloodlines, ruled by 6 colossal clans who hold absolute power over the destiny of the realm. Every decade, their heirs enter the brutal demonic academy, igniting a merciless war for succession where only the strongest survive. Amidst this deadly game, Prince Cheon stands alone, hiding an impossible, otherworldly secret right beneath his skin. Concealing the voice of the Nano Machine from the rest of the world, the young prince tests the limits of his new technological companion. He learns with awe that the machine didn't just heal his mortal wounds, it completely reconstructed his flawed physical vessel. The complex future terminology leaves him bewildered, but the sheer reality of his altered body is undeniable. A sudden knock breaks his concentration as a loyal servant enters the study to prepare him for the trials ahead. Deciding that the name of his internal ally is far too long, the prince casually shortens it to Nano. The artificial intelligence seamlessly registers the new designation, ready to obey its user's very next command. Standing in his dusty study, the prince realizes he must learn to fight if he wants to survive the upcoming academy selection. Unfortunately, the only texts available to a talentless, neglected royal are basic manuals on blood points and vital chi. Doubt creeps into his mind, knowing that even a lifetime of practicing these low-level breathing methods rarely yields any real power. But Nano offers a revolutionary alternative to the tedious centuries-old methods of martial arts study. The machine instructs the prince to simply pick up a manual and flip through the pages at a rapid pace. Confused but desperate for an edge, the boy opens the book, letting his fingers slide across the paper without reading a single word. As the pages blur past, a brilliant digital interface scans the text, translating ancient ink into raw data. Nano requests permission to transfer the fully analyzed information directly into the user's brain. With a single nod of acceptance, a massive wave of absolute comprehension floods the prince's mind, bypassing years of agonizing study in a fraction of a second. The once powerless boy opens his eyes, a newfound confidence burning deep within his gaze. He realizes that the ancient rules of training have been permanently shattered. Armed with an omnipresent supercomputer and a perfect body, the forgotten prince prepares to step into the deadly arena of the academy, ready to rewrite the history of the Jianghu forever. The day has finally arrived, the dawn of his enrollment into the merciless demonic academy. Anxiety grips Prince Cheon's heart, for he knows that stepping across that threshold means entering a legal war zone where his life will constantly be on the line. He looks back on the solemn oath he made upon his mother's death, a vow never to learn martial arts until he officially entered the academy. This bitter restraint was his only shield against the predatory vigilance of the 6 supreme clans. But now, his time of enforced helplessness has run out. In the quiet of the morning, Nano presents an extraordinary solution to his lack of training, offering to seamlessly scan and copy the martial movements of his loyal protector, Guard Zhang. The astonished prince learns that his futuristic ally doesn't just record what it sees. Its deep space database already harbors countless legendary combat techniques from a future era, all ready to be downloaded directly into his consciousness. Yet, raw knowledge alone cannot save a boy in the unforgiving realm of the Jianghu. The machine issues a stark warning. While his mind will instantly comprehend the ultimate forms of combat, his untrained, unconditioned body will literally tear its own muscles apart if he attempts to execute them. To survive the physical strain, Nano proposes a total muscle simulation, an agonizingly thorough procedure requiring the synchronized effort of every single microscopic machine flowing through his veins. The impending transformation promises a level of physical torment so severe that the system recommends putting the prince under high-tech anesthesia, citing millions of historical cases where users completely lost consciousness from the pain. But the proud, hardened royal, forged by a lifetime of neglect and suffering, flatly refuses the sedation. He demands to experience every single ounce of the agony, wanting to feel the exact price of the power he is about to inherit. Slamming his fists into the floor as violent tremors rack his frame, Yo-woon collapses in sheer torment while the nano machines forcefully dismantle, reforge, and reinforce his muscular structure layer by layer. Every agonizing second of the reconstruction feels like an eternity in hell, but when the process finally ceases, the young prince stands up an entirely transformed weapon. His body now possesses the flawless muscle memory and physical conditioning of a veteran master, leaving him perfectly prepared to march into the demonic academy and face his mortal enemies head-on. The excruciating torment of the muscle reconstruction finally comes to an end, leaving the young prince gasping for air on the floor. He silently vows never to undergo such a brutal process without anesthesia again, but the unbelievable results speak for themselves. In a matter of hours, his physical vessel has been completely overwritten, granting him the dense, flawless muscle memory of a warrior who has trained relentlessly for over 20 years. Eager to test his new body, the prince grips his weapon and leaps into motion, cutting through the air with terrifying precision. Every stance, every slash, and every form of guard Jang's dagger technique flows from him with a devastating, natural power he has never known before. Yet, amidst the thrill of his newfound strength, a sudden dread washes over him. He realizes that in the strict, unforgiving culture of the Murim, secretly copying another master's martial arts is a forbidden taboo punishable by death. When guard Jang suddenly enters the room and catches his master perfectly executing his hidden techniques, Yo-woon braces himself for severe judgment and betrayal. But instead of rage, the loyal protector's eyes fill with tears of profound pride and relief. The old warrior confesses that if it weren't for the deadly surveillance of the 6 rival clans, he would have gladly broken his oaths to teach the young prince everything himself. Overwhelmed with gratitude, Yo-woon accepts one final, invaluable gift from his mentor, a hidden manual detailing the flow of internal energy, the Nigong. Wiping away his tears, the prince swears that he will never show weakness or cry again. Leaving his broken past behind, the hardened royal steps out of the estate and marches toward the massive gates of the demonic academy, ready to unleash his futuristic secret and seize the throne by force. The gates of the demonic academy loom ahead, but before Prince Cheon Yo-woon can even step inside, his enemies strike from the dark, secretly stealing his official name tag. He instantly realizes this petty humiliation is the work of the 6 ruling clans, a desperate attempt to deny him his rightful place among the high-ranking elite. Choosing survival over reckless pride, the young prince swallows his anger and decides to wait, refueling the absolute vow burning in his chest, to grow stronger than anyone else within these walls. The restless murmurs of hundreds of cadets suddenly vanish as a suffocating pressure descends upon the grand courtyard. Stepping onto the high balcony with an overwhelming, majestic presence is the absolute ruler of the realm, the lord of the demonic cult, Cheon Yu-jong. Looking up at the formidable leader, Yo-woon freezes in profound realization, staring directly into the eyes of the biological father who abandoned him to a lifetime of predatory assassination attempts. With a single, thunderous command for silence, the cult leader paralyzes the entire plaza. His voice, heavily amplified by a terrifying depth of internal Nigong energy, vibrates through the very air, sounding impossibly clear and deep inside the ears of every cadet. He welcomes the new generation, challenging them to forge powerful alliances, endure the upcoming trials, and transform themselves into the ultimate weapon of the cult. The crowd erupts into a roaring frenzy of fanatic loyalty, but the fleeting celebration is cut short as the massive iron gates slam shut, completely severing the young warriors from the outside world. Prince Cheon looks around at the sea of ruthless competitors surrounding him, knowing he is finally locked inside a pit of wolves where his futuristic secret and iron will face their true baptism of blood. The chief instructor of the demonic academy, Lee Hwa Myung, commands the stage with a ruthless authority, ready to lay down the absolute and merciless laws governing this sacred legal war zone. He instantly shatters the arrogant pride of the high-born noble heirs, coldly declaring that their grand lineages, stolen titles, and family prestige mean absolutely nothing within these walls. From this moment on, every single student enters with the exact same Beye Espe Ave en Yeru Ikratkoi rank of a low-level warrior, forcing them to realize that only through a baptism of blood and survival will they ever climb the hierarchy, while the weak are doomed to be discarded like worthless trash. Before the cadets can even process the weight of his words, the instructor announces that their first grueling trial begins immediately, calling forth a legendary and feared figure from the upper echelons of the cult, Hang So-yu, the formidable leader of the Sound clan and the fifth elder of the demonic cult. She takes her position on the high balcony, gripping a traditional musical instrument, which in her hands serves as a devastating weapon of mass destruction. The rules of this sudden initiation are simple yet terrifyingly brutal. The cadets must withstand a lethal, concentrated musical energy wave, and anyone who cannot endure the acoustic onslaught for 1 full minute without losing consciousness will fail and face immediate expulsion. The moment her fingers strike the first chord, a wave of pure, invisible agony ripples violently across the courtyard, causing the very air to vibrate with suffocating pressure. Hundreds of unprepared cadets erupt into desperate screams of torment, frantically clawing at their ears to block out the sound, but their efforts are entirely futile as the lethal frequencies easily bypass their hands to strike directly at their internal organs. Meanwhile, the high-born descendants of the 6 supreme clans and the elite children of high-ranking elders merely look on with condescending smiles, effortlessly channeling their internal Nigong energy to neutralize the resonance, thanks to their years of privileged, secretive training. Amidst the chaotic chorus of agony and falling bodies, Prince Cheon stands completely frozen and serene, drawing sharp glances of shock and suspicion from the surviving rivals around him. While the destructive sound waves actively attempt to rupture his body from the inside out, a cold, mechanical consciousness boots up within his mind to assess the threat. Nano instantly registers the hostile energy wave, recalculating its internal defenses to generate a precise counter-vibration that perfectly cancels out the deadly frequencies before they can inflict a single scratch on the prince's brain or internal organs. Armed with the ultimate power of future technology, the forgotten prince effortlessly passes his first baptism of fire, leaving his enemies completely unaware of the hidden titan rising in their midst. The fifth elder and the high-born noble heir stare in absolute disbelief, their wounded pride morphing into intense rage as they watch Prince Cheon endure the lethal acoustic trial with a serene, mocking composure. Unbeknownst to them, the prince is completely insulated from the sonic assault, forcing the frustrated fifth elder to amplify her performance to a devastating level of power out of pure spite. Sensing the escalation, the prince makes a calculated, radical gamble, commanding Nano to intentionally deactivate his sound cancellation shield and allow the sonic waves to strike his body. He realizes that to survive the intense, lethal scrutiny of the clans, he must convincingly look like a broken survivor who barely passed the test, rather than a suspicious anomaly. The immediate consequence of his choice is catastrophic, as a wave of internal devastation rips through his body. Nano's automated system reports a terrifying 30% damage rate to his internal organs, causing a violent backflow of blood as the sheer kinetic energy of the sound threatens to tear him apart from the inside out. Witnessing the young royal's sudden, gruesome agony, the other instructors panic, screaming at the fifth elder that her petty vendetta has gone too far, and that the death of a royal line heir will bring ruin upon them all. Just as the 1-minute timer expires, the music violently cuts off, and the prince collapses heavily onto the blood-stained floorboards, gasping for air as his vision darkens from severe blood loss. As the dust settles, a renowned physician and the anxious instructors rush to the fallen boy's side, assuming they are dealing with a corpse. However, in the darkness of his own mind, the prince's mechanical ally has already initiated emergency protocols, entering a rapid self-healing mode to forcefully reconstruct his ruptured organs and stem the fatal bleeding. The examining instructors are completely paralyzed with shock when they read his pulse, unable to comprehend how a boy with absolutely zero trace of internal Nigong energy could possibly survive an attack of that magnitude. Believing he is simply a resilient madman with an iron will, they reluctantly announce his survival, completely unaware that future technology has just successfully deceived the greatest masters of the cult. With the brutal initiation officially over, the chief instructor takes the stage once more to announce the grim reality of the final tally. Out of 500 elite cadets who proudly entered the academy gates that morning, a shocking tally of over 300 now lie unconscious, severely injured, or permanently disqualified, leaving only a fraction of the original group standing. Looking over the broken crowd, the instructor coldly hands out the black name tags of the lowest-ranked warriors to the survivors, declaring that they have barely earned the right to exist in this sanctuary. Nursing his rapidly healing wounds, Prince Cheon tightly grips his new badge, knowing that while he barely survived the opening gambit, he has successfully hidden his mechanical god from the watchful eyes of his executioners. The heavy oak doors of the academy's infirmary burst open as frantic instructors wheel in the battered, blood-soaked body of Prince Cheon. Dr. Baek Jong-myung, a passionate healer renowned for his erratic yet brilliant medical expertise, is initially thrilled to have a real patient on the very first day of the semester. However, his excitement instantly evaporates into grim professionalism when he examines the young royal, realizing the boy has suffered catastrophic, near-fatal internal hemorrhaging from a brutal shockwave of energy. As the doctor frantically prepares his medical tools to save the dying prince, a miracle unfolds beneath the surface. Deep within his unconscious mind, Nano's automated crisis protocol enters its final, aggressive phase of self-healing, forcefully sealing the ruptured blood vessels and completely regenerating the shredded tissue of his internal organs. By the time the bewildered doctor places his fingers on the boy's wrist to read his pulse, he is frozen in absolute astonishment. The fatal internal damage has mysteriously vanished, leaving behind a perfectly healthy, pristine body that defies all logical medical science. Hours later, the prince silently regains consciousness, realizing he is no longer alone in the quiet infirmary room. Sensing a monumental, suffocating presence nearby, he decides to keep his eyes shut and pretend to be sound asleep to evaluate the potential threat. But the mysterious intruder is none other than the Subdemon Academy Guardian, a legendary, battle-hardened master of the cult. With a booming laugh, the terrifying old warrior uses his sheer internal Nigong energy to physically lift the paralyzed prince into a sitting position, without ever laying a single finger on him, effortlessly shattering the boy's desperate ruse. The legendary guardian mocks the prince's bold attempt to deceive him, revealing that any true master can instantly detect a fake sleep simply by listening to the unnatural rhythm of a person's breathing. While Nano provides a detailed digital breakdown of human respiratory statistics in the back of the prince's mind, Yo-Woon ignores the data, focusing entirely on the formidable warrior standing before him. Intrigued by the young royal's immense grit, fearless eyes, and impossible survival, the powerful guardian grins wildly, realizing that this forgotten, once talentless prince might just be the most dangerous anomaly the demonic academy has ever seen.
Thank you for watching all the way through. Part 2 is coming soon, so make sure you subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss it. See you in the next one.